This is the new Google Pixel 6a. It's the new budget-friendly option in the Pixel phone lineup. But what exactly makes it budget? You might be surprised to find out. What's up, YouTube? It's BMAC. And if you like videos about tech reviews, product unboxings, and filmmaking and photography tutorials, make sure you smash that subscribe button with all notifications turned on so that you never miss another video on this channel. So if you're not familiar with the A series line of Google devices, you probably should be. First things first, I wanna give a huge thank you and shout out to Google for sending over this gift from Google for me to check out. There's a lot going on with the smartphone in terms of value, but that does also mean some corners had to be cut to make it happen. So let's talk about the value and what those corners that were cut are. Let's start things out as we often do, talking about the Pixel 6a design and how things are looking on the outside of the device. The first thing you're probably gonna notice with the Pixel 6a is the fact that it looks a lot like the Pixel 6 and the Pixel 6 Pro. Namely, probably because of the camera band that goes across the entire length of the back and because of the two-tone color scheme we have going on here. You'll notice you get your centrally aligned camera punch-out and an under-display fingerprint reader on the front of the device, complete with USB-C charging and an IP67 water and dust resistance rating. And in terms of colors, you're also getting the classic Google-esque colors with the Pixel 6a being available in charcoal, chalk, or sage. The one I have, of course, being charcoal. Now in terms of size, you do have a slight downtick in size with the Pixel 6a measuring in at 6.1 inches, while the slightly larger Pixel 6 measures in at 6.4 inches, and the big baby Pixel 6 Pro measuring in at 6.7 inches. But even with the Pixel 6a being the smallest of the three, I would not by any means call this phone small. In fact, I'd probably say the Pixel 6a is a perfect medium-sized phone, with it being large enough to enjoy the entirety of the display, while also being portable enough and still feeling good in your hands, especially when it comes to one-handed use. It's also worth noting here that you're getting what's dubbed a 3D thermoformed composite back on the back of the Pixel 6a, which is basically just a fancy way of saying the back is made out of a flexible plastic. Google has done a really good job with cutting the material cost here on the Pixel 6a by using plastic on the back, while still making it look and feel like glass, but perhaps of course at the cost of a little less durability in the phone. And since one could assume that it's plastic and not glass, it might be prone to a little bit more scruff and scratch marks on the back, but it definitely still looks and feels like glass. So, pretty impressive. Speaking of glass, however, let's talk about the Pixel 6a display and what this baby's got going on the front. Let's start out with the refresh rate here, and I'm just gonna cut straight to the chase. It's only a 60 Hz refresh rate display. Yes, I'm usually one to get somewhat frustrated when a smartphone doesn't have at least a 90 Hz refresh rate these days, but let's set the record straight here. That's usually only with higher tier and higher end devices. Taking into consideration the target consumer here, 60 Hz as a refresh rate is probably gonna look and feel just as smooth and just as snappy as the budget smartphone user would hope for and expect, especially if they're coming from a 60 Hz phone already to begin with. But what's perhaps probably more noticeable than even the refresh rate is the fact that you're still getting a beautiful 6.1 inch OLED display in full HD resolution that gets plenty bright even when using the phone in direct sunlight, with it putting out upwards of around 775 nits of brightness in those bright situations. We're getting a somewhat downgrade in terms of glass on the front as well, with it only housing Gorilla Glass 3. Now that's obviously quite different than the Gorilla Glass Victus that you're getting on the Pixel 6 and the Pixel 6 Pro. I definitely would have liked to have seen Gorilla Glass 6, 5, or even 4 in the Pixel 6a, considering Gorilla Glass 3 is something that came out almost a decade ago. I'm kind of surprised that that corner was cut as much as it was. Again though, from the bigger picture budget perspective, I get that this makes sense and I can accept that, especially considering, again, the target consumer and the typical user probably is not gonna even know a tangible difference here with it being Gorilla Glass 3 as opposed to 4, 5, or 6, or even Victus, because unless you're dropping this thing, it's probably gonna look and feel the same as if you did have one of those stronger Gorilla Glasses. But where the Pixel 6a really impresses is with the performance. And oh, how fast and smooth this baby can run. Here's something that's actually rather mind-blowing. You're getting the same Google Tensor chipset in the budget-friendly Pixel 6a here that you are getting in the flagship Pixel 6 Pro. same chipset in both of these devices. Think about that. You are getting almost the same performance specs in the Pixel 6a that you're getting in the Pixel 6 Pro, but still with this being a budget-friendly option. And really the only sacrifice, or again, the only corner that has been cut here is the fact that you're only getting 6 gigs of RAM, but in my opinion, 6 gigs of RAM is still plenty of RAM, and will probably be more than enough for the average user, and again, especially more than enough for the target consumer. That on top of the fact that you do get 5G connectivity really does make it a solid offering in the Google Pixel phone lineup. If there's one take-home message that you get out of this entire review, it's the fact that performance-wise, things are a lot more similar between the Pixel 6a and the Pixel 6 Pro than they are different. And that performance is quite important because part of that is and always has been in part contributing to the Pixel camera system, and the kinds of photos and videos that you get with the Pixel 6a, once again, pretty darn impressive. With the Pixel 6a, you're once again going to get that Google image processing magic, in part because of the 12 megapixel f2.2 ultra wide camera and the 12.2 megapixel f1.7 wide camera on the back, with of course your 8 megapixel f2 selfie camera on the front. No, you're not getting a separate telephoto lens here, but that really can't be considered surprising considering the Pixel 6 doesn't have it either. But you are getting the same ultra wide camera that the Pixel 6 and the Pixel 6 Pro do have, backed by the same chipset processing power that we just talked about. Photos still look amazing, as you can see, and as they always pretty much have been on a Pixel device, and quite honestly, it's rather hard to differentiate between Pixel 6a photos from Pixel 6 or Pixel 6 Pro photos. Unless of course you're putting the two side by side and really pixel peeping, but the fact that you have to do that to see the differences kind of speaks for itself. But per usual, all of this is only as good as the battery life, so what's the battery life like on the Pixel 6a, and how long can you expect it to last for? On paper, you are getting a 4,410 milliamp hour battery, which in testing is probably gonna get you just over 6 hours of screen on time with typical usage and typical screen brightness. And when the time does come to recharge your Pixel, you are getting 18 watts of wired fast charging, but you're not getting any kind of wireless charging. No wireless charging here is kind of a miss in my book. Now, I get that there's only so much space to work with, and I get that if this is a budget offering, gotta keep the cost of actually making the phone down to give you the price for this phone. But I do feel like when it comes to wireless charging, that's a feature that's quickly becoming, or arguably already should, be a standard in all smartphones moving forward. I just can't any longer look at wireless charging as a premium feature because how common it has truly become, and because of how long it's now been around. It's just unfortunately not something we got this time around, which I feel like probably should have been implemented. But with all of this having been said, here are my final thoughts on the Pixel 6a. Like I said at the very beginning of this review, there is so much that you are getting in the Pixel 6a that I kind of have to focus on what you aren't getting for the sake of this review, because that's where all the value and the difference can really be seen. First up, you're only getting a 60 hertz refresh rate instead of that 90 or 120 hertz refresh rate. Secondly, you are getting that less durable glass front, and the back is going to be plastic in the 6a instead of glass. And finally, like we just mentioned, no wireless charging. Bottom line, if you want to upgrade your Android to a new smartphone and you have now or have been thinking about going for a new Pixel device, with Google's Tensor chipset built in to the Pixel 6a and the performance that goes with it, and especially if you're on a budget, this probably could be your new favorite smartphone. The Pixel 6a definitely has a lot going for it. As always, if you're interested in learning more about the Pixel 6a or to snag one of these puppies for yourself, you guys could always head to my affiliate link, bmac.link/pixel6a, or of course, there will always be a clickable link in the video description box below as well, so check that out. And with that having been said, I do think I'm gonna go do some more camera tests between the two devices, get some more photos that I can put up on the Twitter for those pixel-loving pixel peepers for the camera performance. Goodness gracious, say that one 10 times fast. I will see you guys in my next video.